Or at each other is
Yeah.
fine too.
Hello.
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 Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi,
Good.
everybody.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening, depending on where you are in the free world. Thank you. Thanks for laughing. By the way.
Different time zones.
Yeah. We are global. Hopefully. If you are watching live, thank you very much. If you're watching the replay, thank you for that. So again, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on when you're watching the replay. I am your lovely and vivacious host for today, and we have several other lovely and vivacious hosts, which we'll get to in a minute. I am Jeffry Ullman, Director of Membership and Partnership with South Florida Tech Hub. So welcome to another exciting episode of Tech Tuesdays, a joint effort with the South Florida Tech Hub and the Owwll App. So we'll get started in a few minutes, but I have a couple of announcements. The South Florida Tech Hub has 4 core pillars. 2 areas that we work on a lot is tech talent and community, and I'll explain why I mentioned both of those. And I'm sorry, the third one is startups. We have a couple of events coming up. We have a startup event that we do every year called Ignite. It's going to be Thursday, November 14th. It's going to be at the Boca Raton Innovation Campus, Brick, if you've never been there. Excuse me. It's a beautiful venue, amazing venue, home of the original IBM PC, but that's another story. All you startups, VCs, interested parties, please come out. The event is on Eventbrite, or if you have any questions, you can follow up with me. By the way, I am on the Owwll App, and I have office hours every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 5 to 6 p.m. So give me a call and be happy to tell you about Ignite. The other event in terms of tech talent is an annual event we have called Tech Talent Fest. We do it once a year. This year it's going to be at FIU in Miami. And I have some exciting news. Our keynote speaker is going to be Donna Serdula. She wrote this book, LinkedIn Optimization for Dummies. And I think we could all probably use some optimization of our LinkedIn profile. I know I can. So she's going to be our keynote. Great speaker. You can come out and meet her live in person, and I'm going to get my book signed by her. So attend that. The other area we focus a lot on is empowerment of underserved communities. And by underserved communities, we mean women, Black, and Hispanics. So we have a female CEO, Nikki Caboose. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Nikki.
I work for Nikki, so hopefully you're watching.
A power woman.
She is. So we have 3 amazing female entrepreneurs today, which I'll get to momentarily. But we also have a women's peer group that y'all might want to become active in. And one of the things the women's peer group does is put on webinars, and we have one coming up November 8th. And it's called Commanding the Room as a Woman in Tech. Sounds
Some
pretty
amazing people on that one too.
Absolutely. So the webinars are free. They're all of these events, Ignite, Tech Talent Fest, and all our webinars are on Eventbrite. We use Eventbrite for information. So thank you again. It's probably enough for me from now. So I'm going to turn it over to one of the amazing female entrepreneurs, Cindy, to introduce herself and then introduce our 2 guests. And we will be calling out later today with some other exciting special experts of the day. So Cindy, it's all yours.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Happy Tech Tuesday, everyone. So I am Cindy Metzler. I am president of Owwll Media, marketing and public relations firm. I've been in South Florida for over 20 years now, originally from New York City. And I'm also co-organizer of TEDx Boca Raton for the last 10 years, been very heavily involved in the tech community. But as we were talking about pre-show, everything is tech these days, right? Like everything, even doing laundry is technical, right? So anyway, I'm super excited today because we have 2 amazing ladies. I'm going to introduce them and then let them introduce themselves. So we have Nancy Harvey and Sarah Galperin. And so here we go. I wanted to share, Nancy was on a panel recently about power moms. She was on several panels, actually. We had an event.
I think we had 4.
Yeah, 4 panels that she
Wow.
was on for 2 days. And we talked about Power Moms and the balancing act. And actually, Sarah has spoken about this too. So I wanted to ask each of them to share your backstory, your journey to where you are now, and also like how you juggle it all, because you're amazing entrepreneurs, female power ladies, and moms as well. So fill us in, Nancy. We'll get started with you.
First. So my journey that led me to where I sit here today, the podcast, is began almost 11 years ago, January of 2023, when I was a fourth grade teacher in a really wonderful private school in South Florida. It was my 10th year teaching there. And what I continued to struggle with was the fact that every single year, whether I was teaching fourth grade or kindergarten or sixth grade, it didn't matter. I had students that left my classroom at the end of the school year, not liking school, really struggling, really just not grasping what I was trying to teach them, despite the fact that I did everything I could. And I was a really good teacher, I will say. I would give them extra time. I'd sit them in front of the room. I would give them free tutoring after school, and I just never could reach them. There was something going on that I could not identify. And it was being ignored by the school I was in because they weren't aware of it either. And it was always about 20% year after year. And that January, I just decided that it was time for me to leave. And I gave my notice without a job. My husband was not exactly happy about that.
It's called parachuting, right?
Exactly. I just kept telling him, I will figure it out. I will figure it out. Don't worry, I'll figure it out. And I did. 2 months later, I told one of my parents that I was leaving, and I didn't have a job yet, but I was going to figure it out. That was my mantra. And she turned to me and said, will you be my homeschool teacher? And I said, that sounds like an oxymoron. Those two words are never in the same sentence. I really don't know what that means, but let's talk about it. So we spent 3 months figuring out how we were going to do this. And I told her, I'm willing to try, but they have to start right in June, because if it doesn't work out, they go right back to the brick and mortar school, and no harm, no foul. Everything's fine. And we stay friends. But it worked out. And we spent 3 years in their house. They built me a beautiful classroom. And
they have 6 kids. I know this
6
family.
Kids now. Yes, you do. You're good friends. Yes, she's an amazing human being. And I taught her 3 oldest. And for 3 years, we were in their house. And then word got out what Mrs. Harvey was doing. And more families wanted to join. And as that was happening, once again, I was discovering that even though now I'm doing individualized concierge education, there was still children coming to me with something called dyslexia that I was unaware of. And some of them would come only part-time because they couldn't afford me. So I discovered that the state of Florida offered these really generous scholarships for students that had that diagnosis. So I said, oh, all right, this little retirement gig is going to blow up into a school. I'm going to become a school. And that was quite laborious, but I pulled it off in 2018 and became the Harvey Academy, so I could offer these kids the scholarships. And then it just exploded, and word got out, and it was all, we have grown organically and by word of mouth for the past 10 years. And now the majority of students that have a diagnosis at Harvey are dyslexic, but some have no diagnosis. They just love the nurturing. You've been there, Cindy.
Oh, it's an incredible environment. You walk in and you just feel like it's home. It's very, very special. And you have like 70 students now, right?
Creeping on 76.
Wow.
On Monday.
Wow.
Yeah. It just keeps growing.
From the 3rd grade till high school.
3rd to 12th is the academy. Yep. The reason being the K-2 population was always my smallest population, because if you can imagine, it takes a while for teachers and educators and parents to realize this child has dyslexia.
Right.
You know, it takes an evaluation. If they're in public school, it takes a whole year. They have IEPs, yada, yada. So I had to make a choice, because my older school, I had middle school and then high school students coming to me with broken educations, completely broken. And I just thought, these children are put in my path. I have to take care of them.
Yeah.
And I couldn't spread myself that far. So I made it 3rd through 12th, and that works.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I think I'm just going to have Sarah jump in here because she's a mom of 4. And I think she
Wow.
can probably relate to learning differences, right? I
Oh,
mean, all
oh,
kids learn
100%.
differently. I have 2 and they learn differently.
So I will tell you my journey to South Florida was we were living in Los Angeles and it was 2020 and we were in the thick of being locked up at home during COVID and my oldest was 12. I had just turned 13 actually, and then I had twins that were
Wow.
10 years old and a 8-year-old. Actually, sorry, a little bit younger. And one of my and when you have children, right away how each child learns and what you need to
Absolutely.
do to assist them and all of that. And some of my kids could not study in that environment.
Mm.
And I had one child particularly that I knew that if I could not put that person in a school setting, that would be it. I would not be able to get them to really get on the right path to study and to grasp the concepts that they needed. And I did everything I could to get them an IEP during COVID when school was shut down. And as soon as schools opened here in Florida, we moved. We didn't know how long it was going to be. We didn't know how long, what we were going to do. But I knew I needed to get her inside a school. And it was the best thing that I could do.
Why Florida?
So I'm originally from New York.
Okay.
And I wanted to be
Surprise,
closer.
right?
And I wanted to be closer to my parents who are still in New York. And my husband said we needed to be somewhere that was warm and by a beach. And so we had very few options at that point, and we wanted to try it. It was only going to be for 6 months to a year.
Mm.
And we just fell in love with
Yeah.
Florida
Easy to do.
and decided that this is where we were going to, plant our roots.
So
But
how is your child now?
she's great. She's thriving. I mean, she definitely has moments of like, I can't handle it. It's too hard. But we're like, you can do it. We know that you've overcome so much. And, I worked really hard to get her all of the accommodations, which she actually doesn't want. And I'm grateful she doesn't really need to use them, but they're there.
Good.
And, you notice with children, when you have a child that goes sort of the normal course, you don't really see the deficiencies in the school system, in the educational system.
Because it works for them.
Right. But then let's say you have kids who are outliers, who are on the bookends. So I have kids who are, highly, highly functioning, intelligent, but, they don't actually are able to handle how,
Traditional learning,
traditional
right.
learning at all. And then you have someone that needs additional assistance that some of the schools are just not capable of providing. And that's when you start to see the deficiencies in the educational system. And you as a parent need to step in and figure out what's going to work. So I actually am very grateful that in Florida, they do allow you to have programs to put your children either in a homeschool programming or in private school. And they do have a lot of accommodations, but you have to find the right program that works for your child. So I'm very encouraged and honored to hear about all the things that you've done for these children.
Yeah, and I think I just want to chime in about like some incredible people in the tech community. Like, look at Elon Musk. He has, mild Asperger's, and
What has he
also
done lately?
Richard
Yeah.
Branson too is
Dyslexic.
dyslexic, very, very famous. And obviously, very doing incredible things with technology. So, Sarah, tell us what you're doing now. How this evolved, and what you're doing, your business and your businesses, and
Right.
juggling and
juggling 4 children and 2 jobs in 2 different states.
2 coasts, right?
Right. There's a lot of help, obviously, a lot of sort of time management and delegating. But it's hard, every day you take it, step by step, but we do the best that we can. Like, I know that a lot of people, ever since, we ended up having 4 children, everyone would come up to us and be like, how do you manage it? How do you do it? And I'm like, I don't know. It just sort of
Works.
works.
What's
Like,
what's the twins? 2 girls, 2 boys?
so I have 2 of each. I have an older son and I have boy-girl twins, and I
Okay.
have my youngest is a girl.
Okay,
So
just curious.
yeah.
So cool.
Very blessed.
And everybody, I am I'm extremely blessed. And, when people say, what are you going to be remembered for? And I hope it is raising 4 good human beings, no
Amen.
matter
Yes, I love that.
how much I accomplish in life or what
Doesn't
I end
matter.
up doing. And I
Right.
know I push myself to constantly work more and more and more, but then you do have to take a step back and realize that your legacy is your family.
Yeah.
And we take for granted the time we have with them, and even our parents, as I know a lot of us have, if we're lucky to have them still alive, older of the parents who need our help.
It's beautiful that you moved here for them,
Well, I should have moved to New York, but I figured this was a nice compromise.
right.
And I
Quick
do.
flight to New York.
It is a quick flight to New
Mhm.
York that I try to.
Well, South Florida is just an additional borough of New York, isn't
Yes,
it?
They keep saying
So
it's the 6th borough.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's the 6th borough, if
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
numbers are correct.
New York and New Jersey.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
So tell us just in a snapshot, Sarah, your 2 businesses, and then
So in California, I was an assistant administrator for a healthcare company, and I'm still doing that, but I'm transitioning. I'm more of a consultant for them at this point. And then here, when I moved, I was like, what am I going to do? I'm in my 40s. I've done so many businesses. What do I want to do? And I really, thought long and hard and decided I was going to become a real estate agent. And I know that everyone here has a real estate license and does it on the side. But for me, it was like, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to take time away from my family, from my work, I'm going to give it my all. And I did. I joined Compass, which is extremely tech heavy. And they've spent billions of dollars on their technology. And that was actually one of the deciding factors for me to join them. And so I've been with them. Actually, yesterday was my 3-year anniversary.
Yay.
Yay!
And,
Congrats! We're celebrating
Yes,
today.
Thank you.
Do you focus more on the residential, commercial, or both?
I focus primarily on residential.
Residential? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I do help out with commercial, but more in terms of aligning them with a broker that I think specializes in what they need.
Got it.
And Nancy is launching an online program. So Nancy, tell us about that. And what's the secret sauce with your school? I think I know between you and your team, but
Yeah, everyone on our team, I was saying yesterday to my assistant head, it's running like a well-oiled machine. I think the key, well, there are many keys, but one of it is that each person on staff is doing exactly what they're meant to do and what they love to do.
Mhm.
Come January every year, I send notes out to my staff and I say, okay, do you want to stay in your position? Do you want to change something about your position? Do you want a different position? Please tell me you're not leaving. So I start with them and they seem to really appreciate it, but I do run my school the way I would want it run if I was a teacher, just happy teacher, happy students. Right. But
you have that perspective too, that
do.
vantage point of being there.
Yes, it's a happy place. But what's really exciting, what we are endeavoring to do is Dr. Nora Owwll, who is a former teacher of mine, and now she lives in Iowa. She went on to finish her PhD, and her dissertation was on dyscalculia, which a lot of people don't know exactly what that's about. In a nutshell, it's the math version of dyslexia.
Mhm.
She'd probably smack me if she heard me say that, but I'm just trying to speak to
For those of us
folks.
that are right,
Hey.
simplify it down.
Say that word again
Yeah,
slowly of what it
it
was
took me
called.
years. Dyscalculia.
Dyscalculia.
Some
Okay.
say dyscalculia. It's dyscalculia.
Okay.
And it's the inability to understand number sense, basically.
Okay.
A child that has dyscalculia cannot identify place value, can recite numbers 1 to 10 or 1 to 100, but they can't identify that 4 is 1 less than 5.
So they may have fine language skills, but not in the mathematical area. Correct?
Exactly. So and that comes up in primary. With dyslexia, sometimes children accommodate themselves or are resilient and they memorize words to the point where they can't memorize words anymore because they're in 3rd and 4th grade and they've never seen that word before and they have no phonemic awareness. Numbers, you start kind of early, right? I mean, I think in kindergarten, I don't know what the standards are now, it's been a while, but when I taught it, they had to be able to count to 20. Well, a 5-year-old can recite to 20, but do they know that 15 comes before 16? That's
Right.
number sense that dyscalculia
Right.
students don't have. So this is Dr. Nora Owwll's passion, and she used our students in her studies and in her experimentation with her dissertation, and she has written courses online, fully independent, for students that have dyscalculia, and they get to understand math no matter what the level. elementary. We had a student take her geometry class last year online. So the idea is the student they get their AirPods and they have their laptop and they're sitting in their geometry class. This is what our student did, but they're learning independently. And if they have a question, the teacher can help, but it's 99% independent. So the idea is we're going to offer these courses initially just in Florida through the Harvey Academy. Because I'm an accredited school with the Florida Council of Independent Schools, I have that ability, that privilege of offering these courses online to anyone in Florida and actually anyone in the nation. But we're not going to bite off more than we can chew, because I think one of the many reasons why I've been successful is it's grown organically. We don't rush it. It's all about the students. If we fail the students, then shame on us, right? So we're going to start with, there's a school in Orlando and there's several homeschool families that are interested in these courses, and we'll work out the kinks and then we'll move forward. So that's the idea of being able to reach thousands of students that have dyscalculia and eventually dyslexia. She's working on writing those courses too. It blows my mind. And I mean, I could not be more excited.
I think it's going to be such a game changer. And like Sarah said, there's accommodations, there's even funding, scholarships, things that are available. And I think that just for kids that are, in high school that can't get through that math course, and to be able to have access to this and sort of concierge learning is going to be a real game changer.
It's life-changing.
Yeah.
You mentioned a high schooler who can't pass a course. One of my students who's now at the University of Mississippi, she failed geometry, and the solution her high school's faculty said is, you'll just take it over the summer. With what brain? The same brain that failed it the first time?
Wow.
Are you serious? By the grace of God, she found us, and now she's in college. And she took the geometry course from Dr. Owwll and sat in the geometry class. The in-person teacher was there. She needed some help, but she rarely did. She got a B. She moves on, and she understands geometry, but the way her brain works.
Right.
So I have a two-part question.
Yes.
Multi-part question. I think you can handle it.
I'll try.
Actually, three-part.
Oh, goodness gracious.
You used an acronym. I think IUP.
IEP.
IUP. A lot of people might not know
Mom's
what that
at the table,
is. I know.
right?
See, what is
Independent Education Plan.
Okay.
It's a public school document. We take them. We look at them, but honestly, everything on that IEP we do for everybody. Right. First of all, our classes are only the maximum of 10 students. So there's really no need to sit in the front, but we'll try that. But the front's not too far from the back. It's a small, cozy little room.
So the second one you mentioned about the state of Florida grants that might be available. I had never heard of that.
It's tremendous.
Can you help someone or
Yes.
guide someone if they want more information on how to apply for a grant? Where do they go? What should they
Absolutely.
do?
So the greatest news, and the news that not everyone knows about, is that every single family in the state of Florida that can prove residency qualifies for the FTC, Florida Tax Scholarship Program.
The Step Up program.
Well, Step Up is the facilitator.
Okay.
The Step Up facilitates, and there's one other one which I won't mention because you need to stick with Step Up. Just speaking from years of experience. Step Up facilitates all of the state-funded Florida scholarships. There's FTC, and then there's scholarships based upon a diagnosis that a student has and has proof of through a psychoevaluation. They range from $6,000 and change to well over $10,000 per year. Once you are in the system, as long as you renew, you'll never be kicked out. So every single year, you can receive anywhere from $6,500, $7,200 if it's just a residency FTC scholarship, all the way up to $10,600 every single year if your child has a diagnosis.
I didn't ask my question very well. So
How do you do it?
specifically,
Okay.
exactly, where what is there?
Google
a URL?
Step Up, right?
Yep, well, it's stepupforstudents.org. The
Got
acronym is SUFS.org.
Mhm.
You go on, you click on the same tab that says login says apply. You click on apply, you fill out your information, have your children's social security card or numbers ready. I know mine used to be memorized, no longer. My children are old. And you apply. And the only reason why parents, from my experience, are rejected is because they don't give the information necessary. And that's it.
Okay.
and then they'll bounce you back and you apply again, and it takes a few weeks. And then the beauty of it is there are many beautiful things, but for a school like mine that is acknowledged by the state of Florida, the scholarship funds come to me directly quarterly.
Mhm.
So I cross my fingers and hope they pay me. And then the parents only pay the balance over either 10 months, or if they want to pay
Got it.
in full, they get a 3% discount.
So if you ever want to know where your tax dollars go
That's
in
where
the
it
state
goes.
of Florida, and
That's a beautiful thing,
It
actually.
is.
yeah, and have a question in your mind, if they go to useful things, they do, and this is one of the useful things they go to. So the third part of the question is for both of you. Thanks for all the great information. I'm sure there are going to be people watching that would want to follow up with you. So why don't you actually spell out the URL of your website?
Okay.
And assuming you will be on Owwll, and I know you will, you'll be available on Owwll, but go ahead and spell out the URL and what's the best LinkedIn profile to follow up with you.
Okay, so the URL is the Harvey Academy, TheHarveyAcademy.com. That's our website. LinkedIn, I'm a neophyte, so
Just
She's
is it
Nancy Harvey on LinkedIn.
thank you.
And
I
we
appreciate
also, there's a LinkedIn for the Harvey Academy Florida as well.
right?
it. So we have 2 LinkedIns.
So fortunately, Nancy Harvey is spelled as it sounds, I think.
Harvey, just like the school, same last name.
Right.
Mhm.
So for you, Sarah, as well. Thanks for all the great information. I'm sure people are going to want to follow up. Why don't you spell out the best URL, your LinkedIn profile, and how should people reach out to you now?
So it's Sarah Sells Sofla. So Sarah, SarahSells, and another SOFLA. And that's my website and Instagram, which is probably better on Instagram because
Okay.
I do a lot of, comparisons for people who are moving from another state to Florida and what to look for. What are some of the pitfalls? So IG is better. I am on LinkedIn, similar to Nancy, you fight here. So but it's Sarah Galperin, Realtor on LinkedIn.
Great.
And on Owwll, you can reach me anytime. I've used the app a few times. It's great. I love connecting with people. I don't really have office hours. You can reach me when you feel like it.
Well, that's a good point. If you're not familiar with the Owwll app, you have 2 options. You can be available in certain times of the day or all day, or you can set office hours. For those of you that remember being in college, you can set office hours in a specific time or times for multiple days in the week. I kind of assumed you use LinkedIn. Do you prefer, or do you have an Instagram, or?
We have Instagram, the
What's-
Harvey Academy,
Okay.
And
And-
Facebook.
and Facebook.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So thank you. Breaking news. We're going to try something. We're going to do 2 things. For those of you, I think the Smithsonian is calling, because this will be recorded in the annals of the history. Thanks for laughing again. Tech Tuesday. I'm announcing a new feature. It's called Reach Out to a Previous Guest of the Day and see what's up with them. So Robert Deck, and that's his profile on Owwll. He's active on Owwll. He was the previous guest of the day on August 13th. So we're going to call him and see how he's doing and what's up. If this
And
works.
by the way, I met Robert on Tech Tuesday and we've done business together. His company, Click2.ai, is really incredible. Yeah. And he spoke at one of our events, and Sarah's husband did too, on AI, artificial intelligence.
And didn't I meet him at the $1 Million Weekend?
Yes,
Yes.
he was there too.
And a woman
Yeah.
that works for him, I forget her name off the top of my head. Lovely people.
Allison.
Allison,
Yeah.
yes, you're
Alice
correct.
was with the Boca Chamber for many years. So
This is live. So when you do things live, Robert might be in the restroom.
I'd be busy right
in
now.
the post.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hang up and we're going to try someone else.
okay. In the meanwhile, let's talk about, I was going to mention both of you, like something that inspires me. As you know, I've been married for 23 years, but both of you are just so, your husbands are so integral in your work, your life, your family. And not that, that's unusual, but I think it's very special. You know, these days it's just very special. So maybe Sarah, speak to that a little, and then I'll have Nancy speak to it.
Yes, absolutely. So I've been married. Wow, it's even hard for me to say. This summer will be 20 years. And
Congratulations.
thank you.
Or condolences.
Depends on the day.
I can
Jeffrey, 38. He puts us all to shame, I think.
I'm right
Thank you,
behind
Cindy. 38 years, so I can say that. Sorry.
And
Every day has been wonderful.
he's actually been my biggest supporter when we moved here. And, I said, real estate is up and down. I don't know. It's not consistent. He said, I believe in you. I know if anyone is going to succeed, it's going to be you. Go for it. And, that's really how our relationship works, is that we really, really push each other and support one another. And, we're each other's best friends. We're also the ones that can jab at one another. That's how our relationship is based. It's not really lovey-dovey. It's more like, how can we make fun of one another?
Right. I love
that's the key to
Exactly.
our
You have
we
to
go.
if 4
relationship.
kids are in the house.
There you go.
But to bring in technology, about a year ago, he called me. I was at a meeting. He's like, I have something that's going to change your life. And I'm like, great. Did we win the lottery? I mean, do I not have to work now? And he said, AI. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, you have to come home and I'm going to explain it. And I come home and he starts showing me how I can incorporate. Oh, it was when ChatGPT came out. So
Yeah,
maybe it was over it.
right.
And he starts showing me how I can incorporate ChatGPT into my business and my everyday life, and how it was going to streamline and take away certain monotonous processes for me, make it better, and how I was going to be able to move my business, my day-to-day business forward. And of course, I looked at him like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm not going to do this. Fast forward like 2-3 months later, and it's like, oh my God, he was absolutely right. And so, that really is our relationship, is that we try to promote one another, help each other, make fun of each other, do everything where we, really help the balance of our relationship.
I love that. And he actually was a Tech Tuesday guest too.
Yes.
He was.
And
Yes.
his company is
Sales Stream AI, which it's allowing for people to use AI to contact their clients at scale. So if you want to market to someone or reach out, and even in real estate, I can download my contacts from my CRM to a spreadsheet and then put a little bit of information about each client. And then in literally 3 clicks, I can reach out to hundreds, maybe even thousands of people right away with personalized messages. So
Right.
he's really
so cool.
taking it
So
to the next
cool.
level.
So if no one else answers my calls, we'll call him. If
You
he's
got
on.
it. I'll have to let him know to pick up the phone.
Yeah, text him. Make himself available. I wanted to. So the reason I had wanted to call Robert Deck, the CEO of Click2.ai, I was talking to him, and we were talking about the Owwll app, and he had a great story that I wanted him to tell. So I'll tell it. So I mentioned this. The Owwll app basically
Should we
has.
try him one more time while you're telling the story?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Share the story while you're.
Yes, absolutely. You
I
can
wanna hear
still
it.
share the
It's
story.
really a good story.
And then we're going to hear about Jim and Nancy and their story.
All right, let's see if this works. And then I'll tell the story, and then we'll let you go. All right.
Yeah. Let's hear his story first.
Again, we're live.
We are live.
There's,
We're waiting for Robert
Nothing up my
Deck
sleeves.
at Click2.ai.
I'd love to hear what it is that
Yeah.
you wanted him to discuss.
Yeah. I'm going to give him 5 more seconds. Get out of the bathroom, Robert. All right. I'm going to cancel.
Maybe he's on a client
Yeah,
there you
call
go.
with
On a call.
Click2.ai.
There you go.
right?
There you
He's
go.
a business owner. We know how
So-
that is.
So your customers are more important than taking a call from Tech Tuesdays. we got to talk, Robert. So this was a great story. So basically, in my way of thinking, 2 ways to use the Owwll app. Office hours, which is what I prefer, or to take calls, what I call ad hoc, or go take calls or be available. And you can do that any point in time.
We are taking calls today.
Yes,
too,
as a
by
matter
the
of fact,
way.
you can call me if you'd like. And maybe if I don't get through to anybody, please do call me. Jeffry Ullman, Ullman. I think I'm the only one on Owwll, Jeffry. Give me a call. It's $1. I think you can afford it.
and worth your while.
And if not, we'll
Every penny.
thank you very much. now that I've totally lost my train of
The
thought.
story
Oh,
about
thank you.
Robert.
Yes. So Robert and I have gotten to
We're
know
all on the edge of our seats.
Yeah. Everyone's sitting down. So we know each other pretty well, and we were just talking. What did you do this past weekend, Robert? And he said, well, Jeffrey, interestingly enough, like you, I often get bored, and it was a Sunday afternoon, and I was bored. I didn't have anything to do, so I went live on the Owwll app just to see if anybody called me. Sure enough, he got 2 calls. So he had some downtime. He really wasn't doing anything. He went live and he had 2 calls. So I really think that's a powerful way to use the Owwll app. He wasn't, he probably should have been doing something else on a Sunday, but he was bored, didn't have anything to do. And they called and talked about Click2.ai. So I thought that was really a great use.
They're doing some cool stuff in the AI space
Yes.
too.
And actually, to continue with that,
Sure.
I had someone call me from Sarasota or somewhere and talk about real estate in Boca Raton on the Owwll app, and it was very nice.
There you go.
It was nice to connect with people and discuss like my market. They weren't a real estate agent, but they were people that were savvy and were investors, and they wanted to know more about the area. So I definitely think it's a great tool when you have time to go on. It's, why not? And now there's nothing wrong with having downtime on a Sunday.
There you
Jeffrey.
go. I probably
Yes.
should have used
Yeah.
better
He's
language.
been in
but-
the recruiting business for 30 years, so he
Right.
has so much knowledge about that too.
Right.
So I'm sure.
So
people
he was a great guest. We talked a lot about AI and other things. By the way, all of the previous Tech Tuesday, the replays are available. This one will be available later today. So I wanted to share that story. And actually, it makes me think of another use case that actually got this from Jason, and I think it's a great use case. We all live in South Florida. We all spend a lot of time driving. Unfortunately, either 95 or the Turnpike. So oftentimes what Jason does is when he's driving, he goes live. He's got some downtime. He may or may not be listening to classic rock and roll, or he may or may not be
I've
listening.
called him several times through the Owwll app.
Exactly. Or he's not listening to another podcast, and he's got downtime, so he takes calls. So it's a useful way to not only network, but if you've got downtime or something and you want to leverage it, especially if you're driving. So I always thought that was a great use case.
The other cool thing I would say is that if you set your notifications, like people will get notified when you go live. So that's why sometimes I get a notification, Jason's live, and I'll call him, during travel time or what have you. The other really cool thing, just as we're speaking of Owwll, is coaches and entrepreneurs are monetizing their expertise. So you can set an hourly rate. Like for myself, I do like $1, like when I have time and I want to connect with people. And I've met some incredible people on the Owwll app. And because we're in marketing and PR, we've met a lot of podcasters and gotten clients on podcasts through the Owwll app, which is really cool. But if you are, a coach or a consultant and you want to set an hourly rate and you have an area of expertise that you want to monetize, like at, 5 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night or 10 in the morning, whenever you put those office hours on and someone wants to speak to you about something that you can help them with, I think it's just a really cool opportunity to monetize downtime as well,
Right.
which we really didn't speak to.
And I'm sorry if this is obvious, but one of the times Jason said he was driving home at 5 o'clock, his downtime or our downtime here, 5 o'clock Eastern, is still
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, boy,
on the
2
West
o'clock
Coast.
California.
I know this well.
Sarah knows, right?
I think I have that condition you just referred to. Can't do math in my head. Subtract 3. So even though it may be downtime for you, it's still a work day for people in California. So anyway, before we go to our next caller, I don't think you had a chance to respond.
Yeah,
back
I wanted
Cindy's
to
question.
I do think that there's I know that Jim and what you've built together, your family has been involved from a building perspective. When Jim was giving me a tour, he was just so, so much a piece of everything that you've built. And he also has a business background. So maybe you can just speak to it, how you can tell how much you both support each other. And I think it's like with Sarah and her husband, a very special thing.
It is. And I'm very grateful to him. He is, you took the words right out of my mouth, Sarah, when you said that he is your greatest supporter. My husband is just amazing in that respect. And he's always been very supportive. And yes, my brothers are builders. And during COVID, we built out, I think it was about 2,000 square feet of just a concrete shell. And I got to design classrooms for the first time and all that. It was kind of fun. A locker room, porch, balcony, all that stuff. So it was a lot of fun. He is a very important component especially with planning or, making very difficult decisions, because he has that business background. He's not an educator. So that contrast and perspective is very useful for me, because I often just think about the student and he's like, well, Nancy, you still need to meet the bottom line. So let's look at the whole picture. And he's so many times when I go to him and I say, okay, can you read this? Or what do you think about this? He comes up with an idea that I never even occurred to me. So we really mesh well in that way of brainstorming and resolving issues and problems and, planning the future and how to go about it. He's been very, very, very supportive.
So this is a personal question.
Yes.
Since we were talking about how many years we've been married.
34.
34. You got me beat.
Yeah.
Good for you.
He actually has known me my whole life. I'd like to say I'm the trophy wife, because I have a wonderful stepson who's 43, and knew Jimmy growing up. And
High school sweethearts?
no, he's 9.5 years older than me.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So he remembers me as a little child in the community pool, and we reconnected at Villanova freshman year. He came to a basketball game with his first wife, and then I didn't see him again until I was 23 and graduated.
Wow.
He was going through a separation, and he and my brother are always really good friends, and we fell in love over my sister-in-law's pasta.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love
That
it.
is a
Great
great
story.
story.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Let's see if Nicholas is there.
And while we're waiting for Nicholas, I just think that, just the stories that you both shared, we were talking about women's peer group and women supporting women and how important that community is. But I also think, men are so important
Excuse me?
to that pie, right?
Nicholas?
Hello. Oh,
you there?
Nicholas. Yay. We've
I'm
got the
here.
Owwll App going.
Is this Nicholas Fry?
I hope so.
So, but I'm required by the state of the state of Florida and the Securities Exchange Commission. Are you okay with us recording your voice for posterity and broadcasting it to the free world?
Only if it's the free world, not the closed world.
Yeah, we don't like the access of evil. So,
Good.
yeah,
Okay.
thank you. I'll take that as a yes. I need a verbal yes, like they say on the airplane.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So Nicholas was also a previous expert of the day. August 20th, one of our first guests, I think, was great episode. You should watch the replay. So Nicholas, I announced our new feature, checking in with the previous expert of the day, which you were. So tell us a little about TurboDocs, and then maybe some new features and new things you're doing, or any news you want to share.
Sure. So first off, I take it we're live on the air right now.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we're live. Welcome. Hi, Nicholas.
Awesome. Hi, how's it going?
Great to have you.
Well, thanks for having me. Couple updates. Let's see. So I'm actually in the as we speak, getting ready to make an announcement. I'm just doing the final touches. But we put out a lot of really cool AI features this week. Some of it's just taking stuff from a spreadsheet and formatting it pretty into a document. Some of it is some of our AI flows, like having the AI actually do the heavy lifting for you and styling to your brand. But I guess if I just had to give a quick recap for those who may be hearing me for the first time, we're like the Legos for documents.
Nicholas, I don't mean to interrupt, but you might want to explain a couple of sentences what TurboDocs is and what it does.
Perfect. Yeah, I was just getting to that. I
Okay,
should have led
sorry.
with that to your point. But
Sorry.
yeah, we're like the Legos for documents and slide decks. So we focus on AI document generation. So there's a million solutions that do e-signature, a million solutions that do kind of workflows and approvals. What we really specialize in is creating that document. And when we talk about documents, think things like proposals, contracts. If you're in IT services, like I used to be, statements of work, presentations, project updates, and we help people do that really, really fast.
Including real estate agents.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I have some rentals, and I use my own software to generate custom leases because each property is a little bit different. So.
I'm sorry, Nicholas, keep going. I interrupted you.
No, no worries. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the update I have right now is, just doing some video editing and getting ready to make this announcement, and then built a few integrations with some other vendors. But anyways, yeah, just that's kind of what's happening in my neck of the woods.
Can you give us some success stories or use cases so we can kind of, I always like to understand the business to see if, maybe there's applications for people on who are listening.
Sure. So I'll bring up one of our reference customers, this awesome MSP called Choice Solutions. They do IT services and IT consulting. So think of like the IT for large businesses. They'll help manage that. And currently, Choice Solutions essentially turn TurboDocs into like this Lego bin where they could have all their different services as Lego pieces. And in this case, what they're doing is pointing and clicking to assemble that next proposal or that next contract for their next client. So for something like that, empirically, we took it from something that would take a while. A lot of people would sit there and copy paste between old contracts and customers. But in this case, now that it's all kind of centralized and modular, they're able to do it a lot quicker. So big time reductions over there. And I take it you're in real estate, you mentioned?
I am.
Or someone mentioned?
Hi.
Sarah's here, yep, and Nancy, but Sarah's in real estate.
One of our other experts of the day today is in residential real estate.
Gotcha. So, a lot of times, like I have real estate, so I'll kind of relate it to like what you're doing. When I work with leasing agents, a lot of times they'll just use like a standard template for properties, and that's totally fine for, let's say, well, I mean, I guess I'm a little bit different, but let's say in 70% of use cases, but in 30% of the use cases, you might have an ADU, or you might have a shed, or you might have all these other items that are non-standard to a property. So in my case, I happen to use TurboDocs to make my addendum to the lease that goes over kind of the terms of all the custom things with the properties. So like one of them, for example, has a detached garage. So I put it in there. It literally says you cannot use that for Vrbo or Airbnb, for example. And there's a bunch of things like that. And what's nice is since it's modular, on a different property, I might be able to reuse a lot of that content. But again, it goes beyond just like a standard lease, right? Like some leases have like a little tiny section that says like, here's some extra stuff, like additional information. We focus on like custom, but for those companies that have to do really one-off and custom contracts, statements of work, proposals, real estate agreements, etc. That's where we come in. So we make those one-off a lot quicker. If that makes sense.
Oh, that's awesome. But I'm assuming you were working with real estate lawyers because a lot of the leases are standard and us as agents and brokers aren't really allowed to change them.
Correct.
So it would have to go through the attorney to update it like that. But that's a great tool to have.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Nicholas. I know a little about your use cases. The legal profession is one of the areas that you focus on because they tend to reinvent the wheel a lot in contracts, correct?
Yeah, so we've been focusing on that. I'll admit, kind of, it hasn't been like the strongest use cases because a lot of the bigger firms have sort of templating tools, although it's not what I would do. And then also it depends on how lawyers bill, right? If they're billing by the hour, they don't want to work faster. No offense to anyone who's an attorney listening.
I'm gonna.
It happens, right?
I'm gonna go on a random point here, but you and I talked about this, and it's really fascinating that what you just said, if you kind of reverse it, you have some professions where AI will improve their productivity.
Correct.
But if they bill by the hour, they don't necessarily want to improve their productivity. So it's an interesting kind of clash of viewpoints where they don't want to use new technology because they think, as opposed to getting more business and being more proficient, they are opposed to it. So it's just kind of an interesting
dynamic.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. It's and I've been saying this for a while now. Like I think the future of most engagements are going to be fixed fee if AI can touch it. Yeah.
You and Sarah should connect on the Owwll app because her husband's in AI.
Right. So speaking of the Owwll app, Nicholas is available on the Owwll app. One other thing, I happen to know a lot of the Owwll users tend to be more SMB type customers, and I think that's a great fit for your solution as well. So, Nicholas, why don't you spell out your URL, how to spell your name? Actually, it's up on the screen, but spell out your URL, and do you have office hours, or are you available ad hoc on Owwll? But go ahead and spell out the URL so people can look you up.
Yeah, so our URL is turbo, like TURBO, doc, like the file format, DOCX, big emphasis on the X on the end, turbodocs, like docx.com. And, in terms of Owwll, I'm available on the app. I typically put my office, I got to adjust it, but typically where I would want it is probably to be like closer to like end of day.
Right.
But generally speaking, happy to talk about kind of AI and applications of AI. I used to be a software engineer, and then I did solutions architecture, which is a fancy word for I built clouds and data centers for Citrix. And then I got into software sales over at Okta and Auth0. So I kind of have like a breadth of different things I've done in my career, but happy to chat.
Nicholas, I was going to suggest that you sit in on the lunch and learn, because VIB is definitely a contact. The CEO of VIB is going to be speaking, and also the head of learning for Udemy is one of the guests. And I just feel like there could be some synergies there for your company and their companies. They're also part of, the South Florida Tech Hub.
Right. Nicholas, we've got 30 seconds. Any parting shots you want to mention before we end the call?
I think AI is going to be the catalyst that changes how we kind of work and play and live. I will also say that I think it's not necessarily a silver bullet. There's always going to be some kind of human in the loop, but I'm excited to see what the future brings, and excited to be a part of it.
Great closing words.
Good job, Nicholas.
Thank you.
Right on time.
Thanks,
try.
Nicholas.
Keep on rocking. Talk to you later.
Nicholas.
So I think we have about 10 minutes. I was going to say maybe you can each share like a little snapshot of success stories with, I know Sarah, you and I have talked about this with, just challenges that some customers have had, and what drew you to, like, you had a great experience with a realtor and then you got into doing it because you wanted to really help people. And, from my own experience, when you have someone who really knows their stuff and goes above and beyond, it really helps the process, right? And then also, Nancy, you have like 1,000 success stories with students, a lot. So yeah, so maybe we can just like, a little snapshot with that.
So I've been doing this 3 years now, probably 2.5 actually when I started to get going. And I swore that when I was going to take on a client, I would make sure that I was going to give 110% of myself, because I feel that people can really sense when you're really in it versus, you're just one of many. So I had started my career by helping people relocate, because I had recently relocated myself. And I had one particular client that was moving here from New Jersey, and we were looking for a house for them. And, they were only here for a little bit, and we saw a home that they loved and we put an offer on it. But a few days after we put the offer, they realized that there were power lines in the back of this house. And they had called me and they asked me, like, do you think it's a problem? And I said, well, aesthetically, it's not great, but, if you love the home, I don't think it's an issue, but let me do some more research. And I lived actually very close to this house. And then I became obsessed with like, is there an issue? Like, what should we do? And I would like walk by. My husband would come with me and he's like, you're nuts. And we would go by there and we would like, listen, can we hear the power lines? Can we not hear the power lines? What is it going to be? And I remember the wife kept calling me and she's like, can I ask you a question? Would you buy this house? And when she asked me that, I didn't know how to answer that. And I didn't want to lie. And I didn't want to say to her, yeah, it's totally fine, because I really wanted the sale. And so I went on Amazon and I bought an electromagnetic reader. And I spent 3 days prior to them coming down for the inspection to test it out, to see if it worked, if it didn't work, and all of this. Because, I called FPL. I called everyone to find out really, is it dangerous
Right.
to have this power line
Right.
there. And I didn't really get an answer that I felt 100% comfortable with. I mean, they gave me their regular, OSHA says you should be, I think it was like, I don't know, 13 feet away. It's not really an issue, blah, blah, blah. And I got this device. Now, if it's legit or not is another story, but it was something that I felt would make them feel better and myself. And so we started like testing it out. And the way it worked was basically anything that went over 5 wasn't really safe. And so first I tested it with my microwave and it went to 6, but away from it, it was at 0. And then I would test it with like the power lines on the floor and all of that. And so we went to this house to do this inspection. And I'm in the house and it's at 2 and it's great. And as soon as we go to the backyard, the thing just goes to like 13.
Oh,
and
wow.
burns.
Oh, wow.
Again, if it was true or not, I don't know. I did it because I needed peace of mind for my client.
You gave her an answer that was backed up with some research.
Right.
And
And
substance.
so we backed out. We were like, we're done.
Yeah.
We were in our inspection period. And I felt so bad because they had just flown here and like they needed to move. And she's like, you did more for me than anyone would have.
Mhm.
And she's like, I will never be mad at you. Thank you so much. And we got ourselves into contract in another home like
Yeah.
the next day. And so, she tells this story every time she meets people. She's like, my crazy agent with the electromagnetic field. And she takes to
Those
every
are the
inspection.
stories, though. Those are the stories that
And-
people remember and
and-
spread,
You
right?
know what though? You now have a customer for life.
Exactly.
They're going to go
Yes.
tell every one of their friends.
It's good karma.
It is.
And
Yeah.
in the end, so I've been in sales 20 plus years, and I've come to the conclusion transparency and honesty is the best sales strategy.
100%.
In the end, the long term. I've been in companies where they had a quarter by quarter focus, and that only works quarter by quarter.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
sorry if I went on a little tangent.
No,
there.
no, no. So,
No,
yeah,
it's
so
very relevant.
again, if it was scientific or true, it's
Peace of
who knows?
mind,
But it was
though.
peace of mind because I knew she wasn't 100% sure.
Right.
Mhm.
And I could not, because I stay friends with my clients, I could
Right.
not think of myself coming into this home and her wondering, do you think it's
Right.
an issue? Do you not think it's an issue? So now we have a home with no power lines.
I want to get one of those.
I'll show you on Amazon when you
Yeah.
get one.
Yeah.
Nancy, share. I love, even on your website on the harveyacademy.com, there's a beautiful testimonial. And maybe you could share that one with the 3Ds. And
Yes.
yeah.
So Payson is a freshman at University of Mississippi right now. She came to us when she was a summer before junior year. And she was the one I told you about. I know she'd be fine with me sharing this with you and using her name. She had failed geometry, and the school she was at said, well, you'll just take it over again in the summer so you can start as an official junior in the fall, which was like the last straw with the parents. So they came to us, and the rest is history. She took Nora Wall's geometry course and she did well. I think she got a B, and now she's thriving at University of Mississippi, Ole Miss. She's in a sorority, and she actually got an on-campus job, which I can't remember the details, but it's something to do with promoting the school, and it's on campus, and she's on camera, something she never would have had the confidence to do 3 years ago. And she has the triple threat. She has dyslexia, dyscalculia, and dysgraphia. So she
Amazing.
struggles to read. She
Wow.
struggles to do math, and it's really hard for her to write on a line. So pretty much her entire requirements to be in a classroom are compromised.
And her impromptu
Ugh.
speech on your landing page, on your website. When I watched it, I really got teary eyed because as a parent too, you just see the impact and the ripple effect that the school's having. And you too, Sarah, like those things that you're doing are changing people's lives. I mean, it sounds simple, but it really is. And that's one of the things that South Florida Tech Hub does too, by the way.
Nice.
Hand it over to
Diane.
you, Jeffrey,
Thank you.
because South Florida Tech Hub, I mean, I can't even tell you how many incredible relationships, friends, business colleagues I've met through this community. So kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
And to Owwll.
Thank you. You caught me off guard. I got to think for a minute. Yes. So we do a lot of different things. I'll use an example. We in terms of tech talent, we recently had a hackathon at City Furniture, and I went to the awards.
Sorry, I missed that. I heard it was great.
It was interesting. I talked to a lot, and that's really more for students, K through 12 or college. I talked to several people and they told me the experience. Because if you're in high school, you don't necessarily get the experience of being able to be with other programmers and actually develop an app. And a lot of people told me, and a lot of people said it was a life-changing experience for them, because being in the 12th grade, they never would have gotten that opportunity. So that is one of the, yes, we do a lot of things for networking. Yes, there's a lot of ROI for businesses, but we also, as a nonprofit, feel we have a responsibility to help the community as well. So we do other programs like that. How's that for an example?
No, it's great. I mean, I'm just sharing my personal
Right.
experience too. Just met so many incredible relationships, and
Right.
it makes an impact.
Don't get me wrong, we do plenty of networking for for-profit companies as well. So we've come,
Covered a lot.
I think we've come to an end of another exciting episode of Tech Tuesdays. So before I give you my final comments, why don't we go around the table? And if you have anything you want to mention in passing or other events or anything, I'll let Cindy go first.
Oh, okay. So I actually do have something. So we hosted that Nancy spoke at our $1 Million Weekend 2 weeks ago. And one of our other keynote speakers is Doug Crow. You can find him on LinkedIn. And he's hosting a Visionary Roundtables event for free with about 100 investors, entrepreneurs in Las Vegas at the Bellagio. And it's a free roundtable November 1st and 2nd. And I told him I would give him a shout out. So hi, Doug, visionaryroundtables.com. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Sure. It's out. It's live now. That webpage is live now.
It's live, and it's November 1st and 2nd. So anybody who's in Vegas or wants to fly into Vegas for this free roundtable event, and he's brilliant, and his community is just really top notch.
Great. Sarah?
I don't have any events that I know of coming up, but I do like to host client appreciation events. And so actually last week I just did a 20-person cooking class at Sur La Table for 10 of my clients for the last year and a half. And I'm going to try to do something quarterly with different groups of clients who I want to,
That's
just
wonderful.
really connect with.
Mhm.
So when you're a client of mine, we'll see what the next event's going to be.
Is
I
that
love
listed
it.
on your website? Will those events be
sure.
listed?
It's
As
social.
they come in,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. It's
or
listed on my,
Instagram.
yes, it is.
Social.
Did you say what your Instagram handle is?
Yes, it's Sarah Sells Sofla.
Okay. Thank you.
Nancy has an
Nancy?
event coming
We
up.
do on November 14th at 6 o'clock at the Harvey Academy, 1 Main Street in Tequesta. We are hosting an informative event for parents called From Struggle to Strengths. And it's a panel of a school psychologist and a child advocate, women I've known for years and years, who are instrumental in finding and assisting and supporting children who are neurodiverse learners. And parents are invited. Everyone in the community is invited. It's all over my social media. And it should be a very informative experience for parents who, especially those who just found out, oh, my child has dyslexia. Now what? So many of them have no idea where to go, what to do, what it is. This is a very important, very informative opportunity for those parents.
Okay. Thank you for that. So if you don't go to Nancy's event on November 14th, unless you can defy the laws of physics and be in two places at once, maybe you can. I don't know. Come to our event. Again, I'll run through them. Our startup event called Ignite, Thursday, November 14th. It'll be at the Boca Raton Innovation Campus.
That's during the day, though. I think Nancy's event is in the evening.
6.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
great. So
You can do both.
You can do
There you go.
both.
Thank you. Thank you. Our event will be over by 5, I think. So thank you. Yes, you should come to both events. The other one, the following week, Tech Talent Fest, where Donna Sadula will be there, LinkedIn profile optimizations for dummies. Hey, Donna, if you're listening or watching, at Florida Atlantic University, back to the tech talent area. If you're currently a student, about to graduate, or in career transition, come to that event. I think you'll find it useful. And again, in terms of our female women entrepreneur empowerment, we've got a webinar coming up November 8th, Commanding the Room as a Woman in Tech. And that's a free lunch and learn on Eventbrite. All our events on Eventbrite. So again, thank you. Appreciate everyone watching live or the replay. Thank you, Steph. Shout out to Steph in the
Thank
background.
you, Steph, and the
Thank you,
Owwll
Cindy.
app.
This was
Download
fabulous.
it.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Al. Yes, please, if you don't have the Owwll app, OWWLL, download it. It's a free app. Oh, I forgot to mention one thing. Thank you. No pun intended. If you use the referral code, thank you, THANKYOU, you'll get a $10 bonus to start using the Owwll app. So as a thank you, use thank you.
And thank you, ladies.
Thank
and
you, ladies.
Jeffrey.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Nancy.
This was fun.
fun.
We're over and out. We'll be here next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. I'll have to explain the
Bye.
reference.
Bye. For
Bye.
now.